As the debate regarding immigration reform is heating up, I want to make my viewpoint very clear about this from the outset. First of all, I do believe that immigration reform is very much needed. In other words, I don't believe in blatant illegal immigration. But I also believe that the crux of the problem is not the problem of illegal immigrants crossing our borders. It is mainly a question of demand and supply. So let me explain this a little bit. If we did not have employers, unscrupulous employers that is, here in the United States, hiring illegals because they can be paid lower wages, and these employers don't have to pay taxes on their wages because they're hiring them essentially under the carpet. They don't have to pay Social Security tax or any kind of tax for that matter on these people. Then you begin to see this entire problem quite differently. Now, these illegal immigrants crossing the border are essentially being screwed by their own government, the Mexican government that is, mostly. So they have very few options left to make it in their own country. And so on a personal level, what they try to do is to cross the border in order to work here for a few months and then go back and send money to their families back home. The one thing that is never mentioned in the corporate press in America is this. Essentially, our own government is supporting the Mexican government, which is equally corrupt as ours. And so they're encouraging this type of immigration. Now, you know, you can build all the fences you want on the border, and people will still try to cross it if they're desperate enough. And people here in the United States, big employers like Tyson, major industries, who are hiring illegal immigrants under the table, make billions of dollars in profits from these working people. And if they have a few raids on their compound or whatever, you know, it's not going to put a big dent in their profit. Basically, they're going to acknowledge, oh, well, we did some wrong, we should have checked their papers, and so on. Now, this is undermining all working people everywhere, not just here in America. It's undermining people in Mexico, in America, and basically all over the globe, because working people are essentially being pitted against each other for cheaper wages without much bargaining power left. So to single out illegal immigrants as the culprits of this problem is completely wrong-headed to start with. You see, humans are humans, and they will try to do whatever they have to in order to survive. And a system which allows that kind of survival, in other words, fosters it, becomes itself complicit in this kind of transaction. So that's all I'm trying to say. I am very much for immigration reform, but I am against this Arizona law, which is completely idiotic, to single out people of Hispanic origin. I mean, how are you going to define this, right? On the street, for people to be pulled over simply on the suspicion that they might be illegal immigrants. Now, what's going to determine that? These very same people who are for this law, by the way, are also against big government. This is quite an oxymoron, because actually what they're doing is they're giving big government more power than ever. Of course, they're doing it for their own protection, or so they think, because they don't think they're going to be affected by this. As long as, big government, the right to detain people, question people, trash the Constitution, the right to protection under certain amendments, not to have certain things happen under reasonable laws of search and seizure, doesn't apply to these people, as long as it doesn't bother them. As long as you can just single out people who you believe are different, then it's okay. So let me tell you something, Arizona. This law is very, very misguided. And I'm not just repeating Obama's words here, because I don't give a fuck Obama. I don't, forget all that. This is the fundamental principle of Western law, and that's it. People are presumed innocent until they are proven guilty, and nobody has the right to pull somebody over on a suspicion, put them in some sort of a holding tank, and say, "Show me your papers." And the people who are supporting this are the very same people who were against the Soviet Union, the gulags, and all of this shit. Now, if this isn't power, giving power to government officials for dubious reasons, then I really don't know what is. So no, this law in Arizona should be defeated. And there's going to be a huge backlash against it. Because guess what? Half the population in the United States consists of immigrants, recent immigrants. Let's say, within the last 100 years or so. And to begin with, we weren't the natives who were living here either. So use some common sense and use your humanity, please, to look at these draconian laws, because all it's going to do is foster resentment. And there can be sensible immigration laws, but it cannot happen without a sensible economic policy, which, by the way, is not the globalization, the free market globally. Because all the free market is essentially doing is pitting us against each other. So that's just my take on that for tonight. I'll delve into it a little bit further, but I believe these laws are totally discriminatory and wrong, because they do not address the crux of the overall problem. All that it does is foster resentment, racism, and single people out for harassment, when the actual problem is not even being addressed, nor even brought up in our national press.